What's up, traders? Anthony Crudele here, and thank you for tuning in to the Futures Radio Show podcast. In today's show, my guest is Morad Askar, otherwise known as Futures Trader 71 on Twitter, also for Convergent Trading and Edge Clear. In today's show, the topics that Morad and I discussed were finishing the year. Now, I know that 2020 is behind us, and I know many of you are happy that 2020 is behind us, but it's not about finishing the year. It's more about what you do throughout the year to complete a year. I think there's a lot to be said about finishing a day, a week, a month, and a year. So we had a great discussion on that. We talked about using metrics, managing distractions, how meditation is an edge for traders. I truly believe that. And Morad's 2021 Trade Right Initiative. Futures Radio Show is sponsored by CME Group, TradeStation, Trading Technologies, and FTSE Russell. The Russell 2000 is a key benchmark for small cap U.S. stocks. Be sure to check out the E-Mini Russell 2000 future symbol RTY and Micro E-Mini Russell 2000 future symbol M2K. To learn more about FTSE Russell and their products, please visit FTSERussell.com. Now, we talk a lot about execution on this show. And to execute futures, you could use Trading Technologies. They are the world's fastest commercially available futures trading platform. Now with integrated tools for advanced options trading, cryptocurrencies, and trade surveillance. You can learn more at tryttnow.com. All right, let me take you right to my interview with Morad. Morad, welcome to the new studio for our annual podcast. I think this is number 4 or 5. I'm not really sure.
I think it's number 5. I think it's
five,
number
right?
5 this year. Yeah. I love the new digs. Love the t-shirt. Looking good, man. Looking great.
Thanks. And I'll talk a little bit about the t-shirt, but right when we were coming on today, and I know a bunch of people are going to ask, they're like, what is this thing behind you? I go, are they going to think it's a fish tank? You thought it was a fireplace? And I said, you know better, man. I go, you think I'm going to stand that close to a fireplace with my hair? I'll be lit on fire in 5 minutes. So no, actually, this is actually the Develop Your Edge video studio behind here, everybody. So I just wanted to clarify that. I'm not in front of a fish tank or a fireplace. And but yeah, man, I'm so thankful to have you on. This is like I said, our 5th year. We've done multiple podcasts together, and every year I start off the year with you. It's one of my most popular shows every year, and it's because you and I we talk about things we're going to talk about today: finishing out a year, mindset to begin a new year. And I know one of the things you're focusing on this year is Trade Right Initiative, and we're going to get into that. But the first thing I want to talk about really is closing a year out, Morad, because to me, I find this to be something that is extremely important. You know, I know a lot of traders that had good years this year, and at the end of the year, you say you're going to take time off, and maybe they don't take time off. All of a sudden, they got one toe in, one toe out. You go to the holidays, and there's just so many things going on. And there's something I think really to say about finishing a year. I mean, finishing a day, finishing a week, finishing a month, finishing a year. There's something to that. What are your thoughts about finishing out a year?
It's really important. We've discussed this in one of the prior broadcasts, and it's something that I actually covered for Convergent Trading members. I want to remind everyone that derivatives trading is not suitable for all investors, and of course, do your due diligence before taking any advice from me or anyone. But really wrapping up the year, it seems like it's an afterthought. It's kind of like, you might be someone who likes to work out, and then you do the warm up, then you go lift, and you just walk right out of the gym. Like the cooling down and the stretching is an afterthought.
Yeah.
But actually, it's a really important part of the whole thing, right? In trading, it's the same. Wrapping up the year, you first of all, you've got to have many pieces together that you and I have talked about in the past. You gotta keep a trade log. You need to have some sort of a journal that explains the trades that are in the trade log. You need to keep some metrics, preferably on a weekly, not a day-to-day, because you don't make or break yourself as a trader day in, day out. You need to track your performance over a month, a week, or a month. I think a week is the minimum increment. But wrapping up the year, it's really important to take, my preference is month to month, and just look at what's happened over the month and consolidate everything into 1 or 2 lines for the month. Okay, this month, huge volatility due to COVID-19. crushed it on the way down, got torn up a little bit on the pullback or on the rally that ensued. I was not expecting it, did not perform as well. Need to pay attention to the bigger trend, whatever it's going to take to get you to pick up and improve, because this is what we're all about, right? This is
Yeah,
what your show is
always
all about. This is what everything I do is all
getting
about. It's
better.
like, how do you get that incremental improvement? And like you've said, it never ends. The increment, I don't care how long you've been in the game, it just never ends, because the process is always evolving, right? So wrapping up is really important in that, how are you going to set, how are you going to reach your potential next year without setting goals? How are you going to set goals without knowing what you did and what needs attention, what needs
Yeah,
focus? And that's what wrapping up
absolutely.
is all about. Yeah.
One
So
thing that I
so it's
never
a
do,
big piece.
I think it is. I mean, it's just like, I've talked a little bit about this, and really kind of like the sports analogy where it's like, you work to get to the playoffs, and then you really have to complete your season. When you get, just because you got to the playoffs, or just because maybe you get to the Super Bowl, you need to complete it. You need to finish it. And you really look at the best coaches out there, from Bill Belichick to Phil Jackson. It was just always about stay in the moment, stay where you are, and complete it, finish it. And one thing that I never do anymore, and I've done this before, and it's totally bit me in the shorts, is I never say I'm done for the year anymore. I know some people on Twitter say I'm done for the year, and next thing you know, you see them out there and they're tweeting about the markets because they got busy. You never know when it's going to be busy. When I take time off, I take time off. I don't have to tell anybody. I know to myself, I take time off. And at the end of the year, because I've had some really good end of the years, I just never say that to myself, because all of a sudden, if something happens, I feel like you get pulled in, and then all of a sudden you're like, well, it's busy and I should be in there trading. I mean, do you ever say you're I never hear you say something like, that I'm done for the year. I hear you more talk about like what you're doing at the end of the year. I mean, I'm wondering what you think
I
about that.
think the concept, I mean, I look at the end of the year kind of like at the end of a session. It doesn't end the trading. It goes on. We'll be
Exactly.
here overnight. It'll be here tomorrow, whatever. But it gives us a line, and that's all it is. I mean, let's be real here. Just because we have a calendar of 12 months, and then the year flips over, doesn't change anything.
No.
There are some things that change, but they do every quarter. Earnings, the beginning of a quarter gets us earnings and things like that. So January kind of sets the tone as far as earnings for the year and things like that. But I think it's a continuous thing. This idea that all I have to do is X, Y, Z, and I've arrived, and that includes wrapping up the year. I just think that's a fake construct. I don't think it's real, because you have to stay in tune with what's going on constantly. Yes, you're exactly right. You're going to take time off, and make sure that's time off. Like,
Yeah.
you're just backing off, right? But then when you come back in, it doesn't matter what time of year, you're still following the same plan and the process, and it's still evolving incrementally, and it's still improving. So I think this thing where it's like, oh, I'm just closing the books on the year, it's done, and then the next thing you know, you're on your screen, and next thing you know, you're fading an all-time high rally, and it's not, and
I've
it's,
done it.
I thought your year was over, man.
And next thing you know, you get back a big percentage of it. And I was
Yeah.
taking some notes of some of the things that you talk about. And there's two things I look at for my end of the year, and that's introspection. I look back at how I handled the year emotionally, how I handled my trading, what things I did well, things I didn't do so well, really more on the mental side of things. And then also you talked about journal and metrics. And metrics is something that I used to do a lot of early on in my career, middle of my career. I kind of stopped, and now I'm back doing more of it. And I learned so much about it. And you made a great point when you said, if you're looking to get better for next year, well, how can you do that if you don't have anything to look at? So I want to actually talk about some of the things that you do throughout the year to help you prepare to actually finish and complete the year.
Things that I do throughout the year. So it's you know, every person that I've ever backed in prop or whatever, it's a business. Your own trading is a business. How do you track the quality of the business that you're running without knowing what you're generating, where your losses are, how you can improve? It's, what do you focus on? Like, I'm coming in after, say, a big trend day, and then maybe I took one too many shorts and it's a trend up, and my mind was not in it. If I don't outline that as a key uh, focused area to defeat, and these demons kind of come up, like these issues come up repeatedly, right? So you get emotional, you get into it, and you feel like the market is topping out, but then it continues to rally for whatever reason. Don't care why, but it's doing it. To me, I've got to constantly keep track of how am I aligning myself to the market, because that's, at the end of the day, that's the business we're in. We're in the business of surfing the market. We don't create the waves. We don't absorb them. We don't, we also don't want to crash against the rocks like many people do by wiping away their account in one or two trades. Our goal is to say, look, there's another wave coming. And this wave, I can't predict the size of it or how far it'll go or how big it'll get. But my process is to line up with it, start paddling, stand at the execute or stand at the right time and keep my balance and keep my entire process intact throughout the trade. And that's all it is. It's so hard. It seems easy. It's a simple concept, but it's incredibly hard to pull off because emotions come in and things like that. But at the end of the day, what am I keeping track of? I'm just keeping track of, did I get good waves? If I got good waves, how did I ride them? If I didn't get good waves, I'm not going to beat myself up. I did the best that I could with what I had, but I'm constantly tracking, how am I aligning myself with the market? What it offers. I mean, this year is full of surprises. Holy cow, 2020 was a crazy year, but it still gave some incredible moves. There was a lot of news, the election and the vaccine, and we started with an impeachment. All that stuff is all external stuff that I cannot control, and the only way it reflects on me is how I traded it as it was happening. So when we're wrapping up the year, we're simply looking at the quality of my ability to catch the wave. Is it poor? If it's poor, where is it poor? What needs focus? And that's all we're striving for, is just a slight improvement over how we did last year. And that kind of keeps you on your edge, keeps you on the front of the curve. And there's no way to know what that is unless you're keeping track. I'm glad you're tracking your metrics more. I'm huge on that. All the stats, how many full stops did you take? You're not a one lot trader. You're not a all in, all out. So how often, what percent of your trades got a full stop? Is it greater than, say, 30%? If it is, there are some adjustments that need to be made there. For example, your stop's too tight for the kind of market that you trade. Your timing is not correct. You're not waiting, or you're waiting too long. These are all adjustments that can be made. And knowing that metric is too high, it's really, for day traders, it's really around 30-35% that you get stopped on your full load without any scale outs. If that's the case, then I've got to make an adjustment. So now it's on me to go do the homework to see why. And that can tremendously turn you around or improve your overall performance. That's just one example of how to wrap things up. That's for next year. My goal is going to be able to scale out and offset some of my risk if I'm going to get stopped out on a move. That could be like a little plan that you focus on to trade right for next year.
All right, we're going to pause for 30 seconds. And during this 30 seconds, Morad, I want you to think about the next question I'm going to ask you. I'm going to share two things that I learned about myself this year that I actually didn't realize I was doing well, and the stats proved to me that they were. And I'm going to share something that I wasn't doing well, even though I thought I was. So hang tight, traders. We'll be back in 30 seconds.
Why did I add futures to my trading strategy? 24/7 access to diverse global markets, like wheat. Can you say growth opportunity?
We should probably harvest that.
Get S&P 500 and NASDAQ 100 by the slice. Just 1/10 of the pie. Trade the tastiest index futures, micro E-Mini options with TradeStation. Get a piece of the pie now.
All right, traders, we're back. And I told Morad to think about that a couple of things throughout the year that stats really taught him, the things that maybe he learned about himself, that he was doing well, that maybe the stats said, maybe he thought he was doing well and the stats said he wasn't. And I'll share a couple of things for me that I was really kind of blown away by when I looked at my stats. Actually, after the end of the second quarter, at middle of the second quarter, towards the end of the second quarter this year, I realized that one, night trading, I was actually trading better at night, which I thought was completely crazy because I am somebody who for years said I don't trade at night, and I was really I was the worst night trader of all time. I just felt like I always was losing money, and I actually was trading better at night, and I don't know why that was, but I was. Some things I just kept note of. NASDAQ. I've talked about this so many times on the show. I did not like the NASDAQ for years. I did just look. I said, this is not for me. I actually have better stats in the NASDAQ than the S&P. I started trading NASDAQ more. I said, I think I was being a little bit pickier, and it actually helped me. And it did some things to find out that the NASDAQ was actually a better market for me right now. And one during the down move, and this was what blew me away. During the down move, I felt like I was catching a bunch of shorts really well. And I went and looked back and looked at my stats. And I traded from the long side way better. And I was like, how's this possible? I'm thinking to myself, oh, I'm glad these markets are breaking. I'm trading, during the big down move. We cannot forget it. And I'm looking back at it and I'm going, I'm actually making more money being long. And that was just one of those things where I was like, I was recognizing that my strategy was actually working better on the long side. So it's something that I emphasize a little bit more throughout the year. And one other thing, I know I said I'd share two, but these are just things that, for me, really, these are the primary things I've noticed for myself, is that also I recognized that, my long-term strategy stuff was really working well, and I wasn't taking advantage of it at all really on the future side, and I wasn't going to stocks with it either. And what I mean was I looked at a couple of times, like in the S&P, where I said, this is a great low, and then I watched it rally. 1,000 points at this point. But my point was that I'm not taking advantage of that, so I've really put an effort forth using the micros now to start taking advantage of some longer-term moves that I'm recognizing, but I'm just not capitalizing on them the way I want. So all of that I recognized through my metrics. Share with us some things that you recognize about yourself.
So for me, it's a little bit different. This year has been, I launched EdgeClear, which is a futures brokerage. There's a lot going on. This year for me has not been a year without a lot of distractions. So my metrics are relatively steady. I still deal with the same issues consistently, and that is, coming back from a very high volume scalping background, I struggle with that thing that you do well, and you talk a lot about, which is to wait for your pieces to come together for your setup, and then to ride the wave longer. I tend to take small bites, which has been a battle for me for the last 12 years or something, move away from scalping. I tend to always see more to the move, and I can forecast more, but I tend to have this impulse to take something off. It doesn't mean it degrades my risk reward, which is the key factor for me, is really getting paid for the risk. But I find that I'm still not pulling out as much as I could, given the types of moves that we've gotten out of this market. But this year doesn't qualify very well for solid stats because there's so much going on and there's so many distractions. I can't say that I was on point and have a specific thing that I need to address.
Talk to us more about managing distractions, because this is something that, the more I've gotten to know you over the years, you have the amazing ability to focus. I've talked about this before in the shows, that there's no person that I interview that is more prepared than you with everything. And from your trading, your business, you're just one of the most prepared people I know. You're hyper focused, and I'm somebody who's tried to get more and more into meditation. I know that you regularly meditate, and you're really great at just really saying, this is what we're talking about right now. How do you do? Because I think there's so many traders out there. Look at this year with the distractions we've all had. How do you manage the distractions and still stay as consistent you are with your process and everything you're doing with trading?
One of the biggest things, and I got to be honest with you here, the first half of the year, it was a disaster for me in terms of focus.
You had a baby.
No, I didn't. That was a year ago.
Last year?
But well, I had a 2-year-old at home during COVID with no daycare and all that stuff. So trying to run a business while coordinating my schedule with my wife, who's a therapist, doing that remotely from the house was insane. I couldn't wait to get back into this office in June. I was going nuts.
I love being back at my office.
Yeah. So to me, what works for me is to basically say, I'm investing the time to do, I do homework. I post it on Convergent Trading for Convergent Trading members every night at about 7:30, 8 o'clock Central. I'm doing the work. And if I'm doing the work, when I show up, I owe it to myself to take advantage of the work that I just did. Otherwise, it's what's the point, right? So I block off time. I set my Slack to no notifications. I shut everything down for a 2-hour block from about 7:20 Central, which is when the bond markets open, until the European close, which is about 10:30 Central. During that time, I'm not looking at emails. I'm not looking at Slack. I'm not responding to anything. My goal is to just look for the next wave or wait for the next setup. That's worked really well for me to set everybody else's expectations. I don't have issues with my own discipline, so to speak. I have an issue because I'm involved with so many things, and I'm thankful for that, but I have so many pieces that kind of need attention, and as long as I let them know that I'm just not available during that time, it allows me to focus. It's hard to trade for a lot of your listeners. They're probably trading from home, in a home office, or maybe sitting in a den or something like that. You really owe it to yourself to say, I'm not here for the FedEx delivery. I'm not here to change a diaper. I'm not here to do anything. I'm staying away from the fridge, because our goal is to really catch the story wherever we catch it, wherever we start our day, and to really stay in tune with what the price action is and what the market is telling us. It's constantly singing to us, and our goal is, it's like joining an orchestra in the middle of a piece. You kind of need to walk in and take the time and leave everything behind to align yourself so you can join in with whatever instrument you're playing. You can't just walk in and just bash away at whatever you want. You need to kind of listen a little bit, line up, and then figure out, okay, this is where I step in, and then you join smoothly. It's a hard thing to do, but you really need to carve out that time, I think.
Yeah, and something I've struggled with is just even when I do, obviously I'm doing this show, I'm trading, I've got a lot going on as well, and I've learned that I have to actually, like you had said, put specific time set away, and you block everything else. But even during that time, something I've always struggled with is I just have mind drift. I'm sitting there, and all of a sudden I'm thinking about something else. I'm looking around. It's taken me years to actually be able to be present. And like I said, to me, you're one of the most present people. When I talk to you, you're always right there. And like I said, you're always prepared. How did you get to that point? What did you do to be able to work on being more present and getting rid of that mind drift?
One of the best things I heard from you a few years ago, I'd say 4 years ago, is that you were getting into meditation. You were getting into yoga. Because of your heart condition. You're very health aware. And you got into yoga, and you're getting into meditation. It's all meditation. Meditation allows you to be present with what's now. There's so much noise. Think of a lake in the middle of a storm. If you're always at the surface, which is where we find ourselves most, there's a lot of water. There's a tide and waves, and there's a lot of noise out there. But the deeper you go into the lower bottom of the lake, the water gets almost heavier, and it's calm. You can see the waves up there, but you don't have to respond to them, because down below, it's just solid and steady. And the goal is to dive and stay there for periods of time. Now, we act in a world that's on the surface. That's okay. You can come up there and do your thing on the surface, but you need to allow yourself time to dive. It's kind of like sleep. You can't rejuvenate without sleep. Meditation is the same. This is where detachment comes from, which I think is a huge problem for most traders who are struggling, just detaching yourself from the result of the next trade. When you are centered, you're not responding to every little thing that happens. You're just right here. You're just staying stable where you are. Yeah, I don't like losing. I don't like losing on a next trade, but I understand that that doesn't define me. I can detach myself from it so I can stay focused on what I need to do next. Take whatever happens and put it in its place, put it in this little box, deal with it when you need to deal with it. But for now, I'm right here. I'm right here. I'm with you right now, you know? And that's a really important asset that you get from some sort of meditation. And meditation could be the form of prayer. You could be someone who's a religious and you like to pray, you know, just go deep inside within yourself and silence some of the noise so that when you take something on, you're doing it with focus and not with so much emotion, which I think is a huge edge for traders to have, or athletes.
I completely agree with you. Anyone who listens to me knows I feel that that's one of the best things that's ever happened to me following a heart attack was getting involved into meditation, because if there's one thing that meditation, if I could tell everybody one thing that it's helped me do, and I'm a high energy guy, right? So I'm somebody, I was a scalper for many years, and I think one of the best assets I had was I just, on to the next trade, move, come on. Okay, I'm long, I'm out, I'm short, I'm out, and just kept moving forward. And as time went by, my stats told me that wasn't as good for me anymore, but what I was able to do through meditation is slow my breathing down. So when I'm sitting there, I'm actually able to be more in control of my decision making, get a stronger hand in the market, as opposed to just looking for one thing to the next, to the next, to the next. Actually being able to control my breath helped me control my thought. It helped me tremendously. And for someone who I got to bring myself down, just breathing. I think that for meditation, people think too much where you have to sit there in a quiet room and whatever. And I've learned this from you. It's just sometimes just breath.
Just breathe. Just focus on the air going in and out. That's a meditation within itself. You're upset, just close your eyes and listen to the air going in and out. That's all you need to do. Do that for 5 minutes. It's incredible how it resets you. But I know this is not a show about meditation. I could go on and on about it.
But it is
an incredible tool.
It's an edge. I mean, if you can control your breathing, if you can control yourself in the moment, that's an edge to you in your trading. A couple things I want to get to before I let you go today. First, I want to talk about your pinned tweet, and you put this back out in September. It's one of the best tweets out there. If you check it out on Morad's page, and it says, "Traders, the holy grail of trading and the best advice I can give you about trading futures is below." Everybody, I want everyone to go and read it, but just kind of talk to us about I always wonder what goes through somebody's mind before a tweet. I know for myself, I think about things before I tweet. Meditation, thinking about it. I don't tweet a ton. I know you do the same. What kind of generated this tweet? And talk to us about what's in it.
So this was in September. It was it was a day, I forget what the day was, but it was a relatively wide range day, pretty volatile. And I saw that a couple of the guys at EdgeClear at my brokerage had taken really big losses. And I spoke with one of them. And just that conversation got me fired up, because I have this thing about this obsession for traders to figure out how to avoid losses. I mean, the amount of energy people put into how do I prevent or avoid the next loss it's incredible. You're focusing on the wrong thing. And so that's that thread, which you can find on twitter.com/futurestrader71. It's pinned to my profile. My intent with that is to just repeat what I told this person, which is what I've told all of my traders, what I tell myself or anybody that's willing to listen. And it's that, you're not in the business of controlling your losses. You're in the business of controlling risk. That's what we're here for. And our goal as traders, just like it is in a casino or in an athletic event, our goal is to expend something. In our case, we push the money on the table that makes up our stop. Let's say I'm using a 4-point stop in the S&P, so I'm going to bet $200. For my $200, my goal is to find out if the market's lining up with my idea, and that is to get long at this price with this size stop and this target. Those four things have to line up for me to win. And every time I push these $200 on the table, I am simply putting out $200 to hopefully get $400, $500, $600 because I need to pay for my losses. And people think that actually don't trade unless you know you're right or believe that you're right. But if you trade when you believe you're right, now you're in a position where you have to defend the trade. I don't want to defend a trade. I just want to know, for the ticket that I bought that cost me $200, how good is the ride? Is this ride going to get me where I need to go? It's like a bus fare, right? That's all it is. And sometimes it pays, sometimes it doesn't, and there's detachment. When it does, it pays for a lot of stops, and when it doesn't, that's just the randomness of the market. So how do you stop yourself from taking losses in a random event? You can't. The only thing you can do is control how much you're willing to pay to sample that market, how much you're willing to pay to catch that next wave, to catch that next ride. And you're going to be wrong. So don't focus so much on being right. Focus on aligning with the market. And there are many, many, many ways to do this. Tons of ways to skin the cat, do that, but doing it at the lowest risk possible. So our primary job is to manage risk. To manage risk, we have to manage our emotions. We have to be fully aware of what we're doing and accepting that we're going into this with a loss. And that's what caused that. I really encourage anybody that has struggled to look at that tweet stream there, the thread, because I really lay out what I believe is the holy grail of trading. No, it's not some sort of indicator or setup. Now, I'm not selling you a $10,000 course during that thread. It's really simple stuff that is hard to build and build on, but that's really the business of trading if you go and read that.
I highly recommend everyone goes and reads it. It's like an ebook on Twitter. Just that one, it's just perfect. It was just a great tweet. I really enjoyed it. And final thought I want to go over today with you is something every year you and we always talk about. What's a theme for the next year? Not that we're changing much. We talked about that. What is something that you're doing next year to get better, like we discussed? And something I know you're doing this year is the Trade Right Initiative.
Yeah, so we're doing this. This is part of Convergence of Focus this year. Last year was execution. You and I had talked about executing perfectly. What we found is that there's so much that goes into people who come into trading. It's very confusing to figure out what you're supposed to do. There's so many people shouting so many things. The Trade Right Initiative is our way of creating a path where if you take and do these certain steps, 11 steps, and then we follow it up with a 30-day challenge. So we want to show you what you need to have in place. You got to have some sort of a business plan. You got to have a risk plan. You got to write down what your trade plan is, your setups. How do you manage your trades, for example? You got to have a journal to track your performance. You got to set goals every Sunday for the following week, and then you got to track those goals and so on and so forth. So we want people to kind of follow a pattern to get those results, which is what we're here for. And then we attach to that a 30-day challenge to do what you're supposed to do for 30 days straight. And that's what the Trade Right Initiative is. It's common for people to kind of come along and do certain things and then switch. I'm going to trade the Crudele way. He's talking about this in the Ultra Bonds or this and that. And then I'm going to go listen to PAX, and then I'm going to listen to this guy and that guy.
Yeah.
And you end up by the end of the year, unfortunately, sadly, you end up with a bag of just stuff. You didn't really follow through on any of it. And this year it is to not worry about what Crudele is doing, not worry about what anybody else is doing. Just find your process and just follow that process for 30 days. It's kind of like doing a 30-day fast or something like.
No,
just
I like that.
Do it for 30 days. And the Trade Right Initiative is just going to continue to evolve throughout the year to keep traders working on the next thing. Our goal is to generate career professional traders. That's our objective. And so this is just one way to get everybody kind of following a path as opposed to just throwing information at them and hope they process it in the right order, you know?
I love this because there is just so much information out there. And for you and I, it's easy to go to Twitter, read a couple of things, see how people are talking about long Bitcoin or whatever it is that they're trading. And it doesn't interfere with what I'm doing because you and I have been doing this forever. And for me, it just is one of those things where experience of going to doing those other things that people are doing and losing money, eventually you just say, I'm just going to do what I'm doing. I'm going to pick bits and pieces from what other people are doing, and maybe they could help me a little bit understand a macro theme or certain things going on, but still within my plan. I think so many new traders, they just get caught up in that one idea. They're looking more for that versus just, like you said, trade, right initiative. And what I really liked how you said is that, you know, people do a 30-day fast, or at the beginning of every year, everyone's going to be dieting. I know my friends that own pizza places and stuff in Chicago, they're always like, January is brutal because everybody's on the diets. And then by February, they're back in those places. But start the year off on the right foot. Trade the way you want to trade. Then going back to everything we said this year, looking at your metrics, journaling. You actually have something to go off of now. You could see it for 30 days. What are you doing after they've done this 30 days? Like you said, I think you mentioned there's an evaluation. Talk to us a little bit about what follows it.
Yeah, so once the 30-day challenge is done, there's a badge that they earn that tells us that, hey, they followed this path. And then our goal is to, the big piece here is accountability. Our goal is to match them up with other people who've done the 30-day challenge and create a support network, kind of like an AA sponsor type thing, to help people kind of weather through the grind that occurs between March through June-ish. And that would be the next step. Is we know you're committed. You've done the 30-day challenge. We know you're committed. So now it's worth the investment by someone else that you're matching up with to continue with the process to flow along. That's the goal. You know, we want to make every trader like a prop trader. That's what we're after, is just get you to think of trading as a business. You're a performance athlete, who trades. And that's what we're after. And our goal is to just create the structure this year. Talking about execution alone, it kind of exists in a vacuum. With this, we're putting the whole kind of thing together.
No, I love it. Where can traders go to learn more about this, or how can they get involved with this Trade Right initiative?
You can always check out what we're doing at Convergent by going to convergenttrading.com. You can always tweet at me at twitter.com/futurestrader71. And I'm happy to answer your questions, or email support@convergenttrading.com, and we'll send you information.
Yeah, everybody, you got to check out what Morad's doing. I mean, over the years, I don't know anyone who's given more to the trading community than you, Morad. Thank you again for our annual podcast. It's always great to see you, my friend. Thank you for also helping me get Futures Radio Show off and running on video. You and I have started a lot of my new shows together. It's you're always good luck for me, and I wish you nothing but the best health and happiness and a prosperous New Year's. So happy New Year, my friend.
Thanks, Anthony, and thanks for making me a first every year. I appreciate it.
Cheers, my friend. Thank you for listening to Futures Radio Show. If you enjoyed the show, please leave a review on iTunes. You can listen to all of our episodes on futuresradioshow.com, iTunes, YouTube, Google Podcasts, Spotify, and Stitcher.